Hi, Laura from Best Creative Stitchery. This is my very first pair of sewing scissors. I got these scissors from my parents in about 1997 because I used my mom's sewing scissors to cut some plastic coated wire. So they wanted to give me my own pair that I am responsible for. So if I ruined them, they were my scissors. They have since been retired to my kitchen. They have, and then obviously, we pretty much use them for paper scissors now. And since they still cut, we still keep them around. I'm going to spend a little bit of time and show you my current scissor collection and give you some guidelines on scissors you might want to think about putting in your collection, what some special scissors are for, and a couple little rules that you might want to think about, and also the minimum amount of scissors that you want to keep in your sewing room. So this is my scissor collection. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide them into two different categories of scissors. First of all, we'll get rid of the kitchen scissors, or the paper scissors. And when you look at scissors, you can easily divide them into two large classes. First class is going to be the scissors with uneven holes. These are actually called shears. And then you're going to have scissors with even holes. And so there we go. I'm kind of divided here. Now, aside from rotary cutters, of which I own several, and most sewers do own several, a couple larger ones and a couple smaller ones, I'm going to set those aside because this is really what this presentation is about. So we're going to set the rotary cutter aside. So when we look at our sewing scissors, one of the rules is that shears, uneven holes, tend to be at least 8 inches long. These three scissors right here are your classic 8-inch dressmaker shears. And a golden rule of thumb with dressmaker shears is that after you cut your fabric out, you put them away. They never actually go anywhere near a sewing machine. In fact, I would pretty much say that if you have a cutting table with a drawer in them, that's where the shears live. Of the shears that you see sitting here, the only shear that anybody really needs to have is one good standard pair of shears, whether they be a classic pair of shears like these gangers. These are part of the collection series that they put out every once in a while. I actually bought these scissors because I just really thought they were really, really pretty and always wanted a pair of the collection type scissors. They come with, of course, a shield to protect the blades. Get it out. And of course, they should always be stored in their protective sheaths. But I do keep mine in the box that the shears came in. But of all these shears, the shear that I tend to pick up most of the time to use are going to be this one right here, because this particular shear has more of an ergonomic handle. The actuality is you don't really know how comfortable a pair of shears are until you actually use them a lot. And sometimes they can bother people's hands. One thing about the newer ergonomic, actually it's not new, they've been around for 30, 40 years, is the way the handle is shaped as opposed to the classic way that this particular handle is shaped. Actually, this handle right here, I've had numerous people tell me that there's actually a spot on these that actually numbs their hand. And for me, the same thing happens. I get a numbing across my finger about right here when I use them. But the thing about this scissor is it has a really super duper heavy blade, so it'll really cut through a lot of stuff. This pair does about the same type of job, but this traditional chrome pair right here actually will cut through more material and thicker and heavier material. This particular pair of shears is a lightweight pair of scissors. These are not a lifetime scissor. This scissor right here, the only reason why it has lasted practically a lifetime is because I have taken really good care of them, and I really only use these on the lightest of fabrics and also only interfacing. So these scissors just always live in my cutting table drawer. The last pair of scissors I have up here is currently one of my absolute favorites, and it's a 12-inch pair of shears. These are common size that professional tailors tend to use. And I'd seen a lot of customers walk in, actually not a lot of customers, I'd seen customers come in with these particular scissors. They were usually had inherited them, and or they belonged to a relative of theirs who was a professional tailor. And I had a customer give me a pair of these after I was talking to her about them. And they are Kai's, and these scissors are, they're probably my most favorite pair of scissors I have in my entire collection of scissors, just because, first of all, they were given to me as a gift. They cut unbelievable, and they cut all fabrics unbelievably. Everything from light fabric to thick fabric. This is a luxury pair of scissors to have. This is not the first pair you own. It very well, it's not the last pair, but it is your luxury pair that when you have everything else, this is what you own. So I have taken the shears and I have set them aside. And I've taken the scissors and I have divided them into 3 categories. I have divided them into the 5-inch scissors, sewing scissor, a 4-inch scissor, and then specialty scissors. Aside from a pair of shears, a standard 8-inch pair of shears, the next thing that you need to have in your repertoire is a pair of 5-inch sewing scissors. These scissors are the type that you keep right next to your sewing machine. They're what you are going to clip threads with. You're also going to clip your, if you need to do any notching or trim away or grade any type of seams. This is the type of scissor that you're going to want to have. So the 2 pairs of scissors, kind of a good golden rule of thumb, is you're going to have a pair of shears and you're going to have a pair of scissors. And of these particular scissors right here, this is a pair of Gingers, this is a pair of Bernina scissors, and this is a less expensive Horn of America. I think it's a good idea to have a lesser, cheaper pair of scissors, so that it's a little bit more dispensable pair. You might take a lesser expensive pair of scissors to a retreat with you, whereas the better scissors, I tend to use my better scissors all the time. And also, I will also keep scissors laying on my my ironing board. I keep one kind of sort of around my sewing area. I have actually a wall with hooks on it that I can reach right from my sewing machine, and they're all hanging on a hook. And so that is going to be your 5-inch pair of sewing scissors. This pair of sewing scissors does all the duty when you're sitting at your sewing machine. Another size of scissor is a 4-inch scissor, and I actually own too many pairs of 4 inches here. The one pair of 4 inches that I have, once again, I have a couple pairs of Bernina scissors, and I have a couple pair of Gingers. I keep one of these that it's actually tethered to my knee lever of my sewing machine so that it's always there. It never walks off. So when I need to nip some threads away, this is the only thing I use these for. So the thing about 4-inch scissors are the blades are very delicate. That's the best way to put it. They're not designed to be cutting fabric. This blade here is hefty enough to cut fabric. This one is really a true pair of thread nipping scissors. So if you do a lot of handwork, this is what you want. The first pair of really good scissors I purchased myself was a pair of 4-inch Ginger scissors. I lost those. And I really feel like that was a huge mistake when I bought them, because what I should have done was I should have bought the 5-inch. So when I make a recommendation to customers on what they should buy, I always tell them a great pair of 5-inch scissors are mandatory, and then you can get yourself a pair of 4 inches. These are what you might do your hand sewing with to cut the threads. This is what you want. So the couple that I have here are going to vary. This is actually just a really, really cheap pair. It has a slightly curved handle. And one of the trends recently has been these curved handled, or these curved bladed scissors. And they were designed and became popular for people who do machine embroidery so that they can kind of get underneath near the hoop and trim away the thread. Now, they also have very, very, very thin blades and a point on them. And to be really honest with you, I am not a huge fan of this type of scissor. I tend not to recommend them because I feel that when the blade curves, it seems like you lose some of that crisp cutting power of the blade itself. So I'm not a huge overly big fan of this particular type of scissor. On the other hand, this was a pair of special limited edition Bernina scissors that I got my hands on. And they have this wonderful little blade down here. They are not curved. And these are just a marvelous, wonderful, wonderful pair of scissors. They are I think these are, I'm not sure what they're coated with, carbon coated or something. I'm not really sure. But this is a fabulous, wonderful. In fact, this is a more premium pair of scissors than this is actually a Bernina pair of scissors here. Every once in a while, Bernina will put out some limited edition scissors. And of course, they're always really premium quality. And also, when I got that limited edition pair of shears that I showed you early, it also came with this small little pair of 4-inch scissor. This is a classic pair of gingers. I tend to keep this attached to a lanyarette, and I often will travel with these because these go around my neck, and then I don't have to worry about anybody picking them up and walking away with them. And so I do take really good care of these. I don't use these very frequently, but like I said, I tend to travel with these because they can stay around my neck or when I'm walking around my house and I need them. So of all these pair of scissors right here, probably if I had to get rid of them all and keep one pair, I probably would opt to keep this particular pair right here, partly because the eyes, the finger holes are nice and big. I can get my fingers in them right away. Sometimes these holes tend to be really teeny and they're hard to get your fingers into, but in fact, they're meant to be held kind of like this, as opposed to really, you know, getting your fingers down into the hole. The other category of scissor is going to be our specialty scissors. And of these specialty scissors, I'm going to talk about a pinking shear. And if you do garment construction, you'll want to think about getting a pair of pinking shears. And pinking shears do take a little bit of practice to use them because if you don't squeeze them together right, they sometimes don't work very well. But sometimes the best thing to do about a pinking shear is inherit a pair if you can. Not that I would recommend inheriting a pair of scissors, but if you can inherit a pair of these, they're wonderful. You, of course, only are going to use them if you're going to grade seams. We don't really cut patterns out with these anymore, but they're great for grading seams. Not a mandatory pair of scissors, but if you can get your hands on a pair as a gift, or like I said, in a relative who you've inherited the sewing items from, this is possibly a keeper. I actually have 2 pairs of these. One pair my mom actually gave me. I was also given this little delightful little pair of scissors. It is a miniature pair of pinking shears, and I actually love these. I was admiring one of my employees. She had gotten them off of eBay, and about a month later, she handed me this little box and said, "Here, a little special gift for you." And I actually use these probably even more than I use these. So they're a charming, lovely little pair. They're still in their box with their little tag, and they're just a neat little pair. So 3 other pairs of scissors right here. This is a very unique pair of scissors. This is called a tailor's point. And the reason why this is called a tailor's point is because of the really thick blades on this. Now, this is actually a 5-inch pair of scissors, not to be confused with this scissor right here. The difference between this scissor here and this scissor is that this scissor in my right hand has very stout blades as comparison to the standard sewing scissor. And this scissor is designed to cut through and clip like wool lapels, hence why they're called tailor scissors. And they are magnificent if you are working with heavier fabrics because they're just really stout. So as you're at your machine where you need to cut heavier fabrics, instead of reaching for your shears that you cut the item out with, you would reach for these. These are now called craft points because tailor, a lot of people don't tailor anymore. And so to keep their marketability up, they changed the name. But that also means they're great for if you make purses and you work with soft and stable or thicker fabrics where you're any kind of craft item. They're a nice little extra pair of scissors you might want to consider. Another pair of scissors that these were very popular more almost 25, 30 years ago. These are applique scissors, and the real name of these scissors are not applique scissors. They're rug scissors, because if you did rug hooking, you could then take these scissors and cut the yarn and kind of cut your rugs flat. And so as you can see with the shape of the blades right here. And then what happened was, because people started using these for a upside down form of applique, these scissors became more popular. In today's kind of sewing world, unless you did a ton of applique, I'm not so sure that this is once again a luxury pair, nowhere near the popularity that they were a number of years ago. The last pair I want to show you is a pair that I recently pulled out and started using around with my embroidery machine. And this is my new love. For a long time, I was just using this pair of scissors right here with my embroidery, and just kind of getting by with them. And I pulled this out. One of the problems with these particular little quick clip type scissors is, in fact, I don't even know that you can, they're scissors, but they're nippers more than anything, is that there are some of these that have been out for a while that are very poor quality. And for a long time, I could never recommend them because they felt terrible when you used them. Very kind of scratchy, grindy, and they were expensive. And then there's been a new kind of generation of these come out where they are virtually practically surgical. So the quality of this particular product has really been elevated in the last couple of years. So strongly recommend this for your to put at your embroidery machine to do your clipping of your threads while you're doing your embroidery. So let's take a few minutes to talk about how to take care of your scissors so you will get a lifetime of use out of them. And especially if you're making an investment, and I do really feel like you should invest in scissors. Don't just go buy cheap scissors, because you'll be buying them all the time, is basically what it boils down to. And a lot of times I'll teach a class and somebody will have a basic, I hate to say it, but it's a piece of garbage scissor. And I don't know how they can sit and sew with them because they don't cut. And so treat yourself to good scissors because you will have them forever. As opposed to cheaper scissors where you'll just be buying a new pair every couple of years. So my suggestion is, if the scissor comes with a box, this particular scissor has a little collector's tin that they came in. I would always recommend that you store them in that box. Got the nice little tin box. Store them in the box. It helps to protect the scissor itself. I don't think I've ever had this pair sharpened because I do take really good care of them. When I'm done with them, they go back in the box. Also because many scissors also come with a protective sheath. Not all scissors come in a nice little collector's box like this. So you will want to make sure that it wears its protective sheath when not in use. So many scissors. So here we have an example of the original box that came with this particular pair of pinking shears, and the original packaging that came with this very large pair of scissors. I always keep them in this the plastic packaging. And many scissors also come with some sort of leather sheath to also protect the tips. So it doesn't mean that when you're using them in your sewing room that the minute they come off your fingers, they have to slide into the sheath. But when you're done with your sewing session at the end of the day, make sure that you put them back into their little home before you put them in their place for the night. So this will help to ensure that your scissors will stay in good shape. Now, over the course of time, as you use your scissors, you're going to find that they're going to feel a little cranky. And I like to take my scissors, and every once in a while, I like to oil the screw in here because I often find that they will maybe get a little coarse feeling. And I'll actually take a little bit of my sewing machine oil and use that. Sewing machine oil is usually a very high, fine grade of oil. And I will actually take this oil and I'm going to open that up and put a little teeny tiny bit of this in the joint right. So get right in there. Kind of get it into where the screw is, and kind of work it in, because your fabric, if dust and fibers get in there, your sewing room is dusty, and often that will have some dried up stuff inside of it, and it will feel kind of cranky. Kind of work that into the screw. And then I like to kind of work it down into the blade. And also your blades will get glue and that type of thing on them. And you should take the time to clean off the glue off your scissors too. And then you can take a piece of fabric, or you can take a Kleenex and wipe those off the blade. And I'll actually clean my scissors about once a year. Or like I said, if they feel cranky, I will I will put a little drop of oil in the pivot point right there. And then of course, once I wipe those off, then I will put them away. And then, I think I've had this pair of scissors for very close to 35 years, and I've taken really good care of them, and they will go on to another generation. So something else you want to consider with your scissors is a couple little golden rules of thumb. First of all, if you possibly can, avoid dropping your scissors. That is one sure way of getting a ding in them that will cause you to have a catch, and then you have to find a good scissor sharpener, and sometimes that's extremely difficult to find, is someone who can do a really good sharpening job. Don't just go take them to a hardware store and expect that person there. They need a more detailed, finer grinding wheel in order to grind these blades down and do a correct job on them. Sometimes you can actually send them back to Ginger. You can send them back to Ginger at one time, and for about $10, they will resharpen your scissors and totally recondition. They take the screw out and bringing them back to their almost their first day glory. So a couple other things you want to consider about your scissors, aside from, they're a very valuable sewing tool you have in your sewing room, so you want to, treat them with respect, is do never loan your scissors to anybody. Loan your toothbrush, but never, ever let anybody borrow your scissors. Remember, I had told you that how I ended up getting this pair of scissors was because I used my mother's scissors to cut plastic coated wire, and I basically ruined them in one fell swoop. So no one's going to love your scissors as much as you do, and ban people from touching them in your sewing room. They are 100% off limits. The stories I've heard of a family member grabbing the sewing shear to cut a pizza with, and by the way, I have done that, and I've ruined scissors. That was when I was younger, and basically turned a good pair of cheap scissors into a useless pair of scissors in a matter of 15 seconds. So ban anybody from touching. No one is allowed to touch your sewing scissors ever. And aside from that, once you get a pair of sewing scissors, and like I said, the two pairs that you need in your sewing room are going to be your 8-inch shears and your 5-inch. Once you have these two pairs of scissors, and take the time, spend the money, make the investment, and buy very high quality in these. Then you can add to your scissor collection. Would not be unusual. It would be normal for you to have maybe up to 10 pairs of scissors in your sewing room. You have my permission to have that many pairs of scissors. There's many popular scissors for quilting type of things that have very specific points on them. If you are going to do this craft in the art of sewing, then you're going to need to have the proper tools to do the job. So with that, I hope this has taught you a little bit about scissors, how to take care of them, and what the different scissors are going to do for you. So thank you very much, and go out and buy some more scissors.